Good evening and welcome to a brand new Axis and Allies video for Axis and Allies 1941. In this video I'm going to be covering some of the competitive German openings that will allow you to absolutely obliterate the Allies, and as well as the long-term strategies to keep in mind when you're playing as Germany. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So the first thing you want to do as Germany is purchase new units. At the start of the game, you start off with 12 IPCs and you could buy a variety of different units. But here I have a list of 5 purchases that are pretty good and competitive and could allow you to attack, who or whatever, So I have 1 aircraft carrier here, 2 tanks, a stack of infantry, and a fighter and a bomber that you could purchase. Essentially, if you want to go for the UK first, you want to build an aircraft carrier. If you want to go for the Soviet Union, go for the tanks or the stack of infantry. If you want to go for, a variety of like the UK and the Soviet Union, you go for a fighter or a bomber. But I'll get into that a bit more as the video continues. All right, so we're going to purchase the aircraft carrier and we'll say we're going for the United Kingdom or United States first strategy. And so right now, for combat moves, what we're going to do is try to eliminate as much Navy the United Kingdom has right off the bat. So first, we're going to send both of these subs and attack the battleship and submarine in Sea Zone 8. We're not going to bring the battleship though. Instead, we're going to bring these 2 fighters, one from Western Europe as well as Germany, to assist in that battle. For the aircraft carrier near Spain, you're just going to send 1 submarine into that battle. Now, the fighter on the aircraft carrier won't be able to fight back, so it'll just be a 1v1 between your sub and the aircraft carrier. And also you're going to attack Egypt, Anglo-Egypt, Sudan. And what you're going to do is bring the tank from North Africa, as well as the 2 infantry from Southern Europe, drop them all off into Egypt, and also take the fighter from Southern Europe into Egypt, as well as the bomber. The fighter will have 2 movement spaces left, and will be able to land back in Southern Europe, as well as the bomber having an additional 3 movement where it could go ahead and land in Germany or Eastern Europe or whatever else that it can be needed. So the reason why we do not move the battleship into this Sea Zone 8 battle is because there's a couple of submarines in the Atlantic that will be able to 1v1 our aircraft carrier with our new planes that we put on it. So that's why we keep that battleship there, because it could also help defend against the submarines, these pesky little submarines that could take it out. For the Soviet Union portion, you're going to pull all of your troops back. Try not to lose as much infantry because you are going to be kind of low on infantry. But if you do stack everything in Eastern Europe, the Soviets will have a very tough battle to crack if they want to attack you there. So go ahead and just push them all back. And if you do see an open territory, like in this scenario, go ahead and use one of your tanks to attack it and come right back. So the tanks have a blitzing move that they could use, where they could go ahead and do that, take the territory, and then get out, and then regroup back to safety. And those are all the combats that we'll do. Alright, so we have conducted combat. We are currently at 13 IPC right now, and here we go. So for non-combat moves, we're going to take everybody from Ukraine and push them into Eastern Europe and stack Eastern Europe. You're also going to take the 3 infantry from Germany and also send them into Eastern Europe. You'll take the 2 infantry from Western Europe, push them into Southern Europe, to get them ready to land in Egypt or the Middle East. If they don't happen to sink your transport, they could go ahead and launch into the Middle East or Egypt. Your fighter could go back into Southern Europe, while your bomber can go ahead and land in Eastern Europe, help out the German stack. The people in Norway and Finland can just kind of chill. For the tank in Western Europe, you're also going to send that to Eastern Europe because it's kind of useless right there, and it applies some more pressure to the Soviet Union. For the fighters that were in Sea Zone 8, you're going to land them in Sea Zone 5. They can land there because you're placing an aircraft carrier this turn. And so there we go. So for this strategy, next turn you'll be able to transport and then some infantry or whatever, infantry or fighters, and then try to threaten the United Kingdom. And you could also potentially, if you have a big enough navy, if you send your fleet into Greenland, you could attack Washington, D.C., and also attack the United London as well, putting pressure on both the U.S. and the United Kingdom to defend their capitals. So yeah, the goal is to try to take out as many UK territories as possible and try to drain the UK so you could apply as much pressure to the UK as possible. So taking all these Middle East territories, Egypt, the Middle East, and then South Africa, that'll weaken the United Kingdom. It'll make them purchase more stuff on the mainland and taking stuff away from Australia and India, allowing Japan to really take over and dominate the Pacific. So yeah, that's a pretty good opening. The Russians will be a bit powerful in this strategy if you do try to go for it. All right, so now we're going to go on to the Soviet Union strategies. So for purchases, we have the 2 tanks here, or we could choose to get a big stack of infantry. You could also get 1 tank and 2 infantry, but I kind of see that as a bit ineffective. If you're trying to rush down Moscow, get the double tanks. If you're trying to play a slow game and you want to constrict all the territories around Moscow, go for the infantry. But in this situation here, where they have a massive stack in West Russia, I would go for the infantry stack because I won't be able to blitz down Moscow fast enough since they have so many infantry people. Since they have so many infantry that they could stack Moscow with, and no matter how many tanks right now, I won't be able to blitz. I won't be able to take down Moscow that fast. So this situation, I would go for the double infantry. However, if the Soviet Union was playing kind of sloppy, so kind of like this, and they had troops kind of spread out anywhere throughout the Caucasus, West Russia, and in Karelia, in this situation, you could potentially counterattack and take out a good chunk of their infantry. So in this, if you do see yourself in that situation where the Russian players playing kind of weird, then you're going to get the 2. Then go ahead and get the 2 tanks and try to speed run the Moscow as fast as possible. All right, so now jumping into the combat moves for the double tank build for Germany. So you'll get the double tank build if Russia's kind of spread out here. And here you'll be able to attack West Russia with everything you have to try to eliminate as many Soviets as possible. Now, this could be a strafe. You don't have to take this territory if you deal a lot of damage and, you know, your tanks are like the only ones left. You could also pull out. But the goal is here to try to destroy as much infantry as the Soviet Union has, or try to whittle down their infantry, I would say. So take as much infantry down so Russia is as easy to take out as possible. And then for the Navy battles, you're going to send in the battleship and the 2 subs into the battleship battle, as well as send in the lone other sub to try to 1v1 that aircraft carrier again. All right, and that's it. All right, so I went ahead and conducted the combat for this. The battle in West Russia went very nicely for us. We lost only 4 guys and killed a stack of their infantry there. That was very good for us. For all the fighters, just go ahead and move them into Eastern Europe, as well as taking the Southern Europe infantry and the infantry from Germany into Eastern Europe. The tank could also move into Eastern Europe. And so the UK can land in Western Europe, but we can counterattack it if they do. But yeah, Yeah, so that was unfortunate. A little sub lost that battle, but we'll go ahead and bring those infantry over. Again, we don't really have to defend Western Europe. If they do happen to land there, then we could counterattack. For the tank in North Africa, just evacuate him out of there. Help him get back to the mainland, and he'll assist in the tearing down of Moscow. So just take that guy out of there. And for the ships, they're kind of just dead, but you could kind of hide them in the corner there from the aircraft carrier. But either way, they're kind of just dead. But yeah, that's it. Those are all the combat moves, non-combat moves. But yeah, as you can see, the position is looking very, very nice for us. And here we go. We're placing down our 2 tanks. Essentially now you just want to keep on moving troops over. So bringing those infantry stacks into West Russia, and then putting your tanks into West Russia. And then the next turn after this, you would get either a fighter or a bomber, but probably a bomber. And that bomber would be able to hit Russia this next turn. If you or the next 2 turns, and that will give you the maximum damage as possible. All right, so here's the other strategy you could do for the Soviet Union. For this one, you're going to be getting the 4 infantry here. Go ahead and buy these guys. And yeah, for this, because the Soviet Union, you won't be able to really counterattack that much, and I would suggest to kind of restrict the Soviet Union instead of actually dealing damage to them. So for this strategy, you just kind of want to collect as many territories as possible and just keep surrounding them in Russia, and then keep pushing your infantry stacks down and around here, and try to get as much money as possible to the point where you could overwhelm Russia. So for combat moves, everything's going to be pretty much the same. Essentially what you want to do is put an infantry there and take these 2 guys, bring them back here into Eastern Europe. And just keep a guy here and there. You don't want to take the Caucasus, because if you put infantry here and the Russians come in, or maybe like the UK sends a guy into here, that guy just dies, and the production isn't really worth it at that point. I find it's more effective to keep stacking troops and to threaten, try to push back the Russians. The Japanese could also attack the Caucasus from this area if they get into the position to do so. Kind of help with taking down the Soviet Union here. But essentially, you want to keep blockers for these 2 territories, for territories that you could potentially stack on. So from here, you just go ahead and move all these guys over here or whatever. You could also choose to do the Africa battle here if you wanted to, like grab these 2 infantry, the fighter and the bomber, send to that. So you could also do like that strategy as well, because this is a very slow strategy. If you get the infantry, you're going to, you're taking it slow. You're taking it slow, and you're trying to restrict all. You want to grab up as much production as possible, as much industrial production as you can. So we'll say, these 2 guys come down here. Take this out. You send like the fighter and bomber or whatever down there as well. So this fighter would have been in that battle, and that bomber would be in that battle. So yeah, so say all these guys die. Take over Anglo-Egypt. Take that. And yeah, so you take that. Do good old Navy battles. If there's nothing else for your planes to attack here, then just use those planes into these battles or whatever that you're trying to do. And then after, try to land them in Eastern Europe and try to stack this area. Then yeah, so pretty much just keep stacking infantry and then pushing them along. Eventually you will be able to overpower them and just keep pushing them back. Alright, so yeah, that's a very basic strategy. And then obviously these guys can go ahead and move over. Those are the Soviet Union strategies for the Soviet Union. So the last strategy I have is probably, I believe, the best option. It kind of it pressures both the UK and the Soviet Union at the same time. So I believe these are kind of the better ones. So let me reset the board and I'll show you guys. Alright, so here's the final strategy here. It's pretty much the same as the normal strategy. Go ahead and stack everything into Eastern Europe, and one in Ukraine, one in Karelia. Alright, and then make sure you take the guy from Norway and Finland over instead of the guys from the stack here into Norway, Finland, because they could potentially attack you if you don't have that many troops there. So here, that fighter, you also do the Egypt attack, take out the UK Navy. And down here, there's a couple of options you could do. So you could get the bomber, or you could get the fighter. We'll talk about the bomber first. So the bomber here, it's pretty nice. So after this, so if you are going for the bomber, you're going to want to take these two guys here into Berlin, just so that this bomber doesn't do this and try to 1v1 your bomber. You know, that would be kind of bad. But essentially, this bomber is used for defending Europe. It's an aggressive weapon, but it could also defend Europe, so it pretty much helps you attack whatever UK fleet that goes out here. So if something's attacking, the UK can't build a fleet here, or if they have like ships left, they send a fleet here and stack whatever here. You'll be able to attack them with that bomber, as well as all these fighters, and it applies a lot of pressure there. This bomber can also be used in Africa here. So if you have a good standing in Africa, you could do 1, 2, 3, attack this, and then also go back there. Or maybe here, if this guy decides to move up or something, make the grave mistake of moving up so you could attack that guy. And yeah, so it helps in Africa, it helps over here, and it also applies pressure to the Soviet Union as well. So if they do want to attack, if the Soviet Union decides to trade with you, so trading is if they take it and then you take it back, you actually will win in the trades because you just have much more air power. So this, along with the fighter, is this kind of the same premise. You know, the more air power you have, the better chances you have. Yeah, so the bomber is pretty good if you want to go aggressive and you know, apply as much pressure around the world as possible. So for this, say if the USSR, they send 2 infantry or whatever, and they send in this fighter and they take out your guy here. You know, and say your guy gets lucky hit, then you have this battle. Well, you don't want to take this territory necessarily. It's your goal to take out their infantry, so what you can do is just send one guy. You send one guy over, and then send absolutely all of your planes over. And then same with up here. If they put only 1 infantry there, you could send in 1 infantry, and then a bunch of planes. Send in a bunch of planes after them. And then just take out their infantry, and if you're lucky, you take the territory. But really, the main point is taking the infantry. The production isn't really worth it in this game. So yeah, just try to snipe out their infantry if they do that blocking stuff. And yeah, and then if they keep doing that, their infantry numbers are going to go down, and then you'll be able to overpower them eventually because you do have much more offense than the Soviet Union. Yeah, so that's it. That's essentially the reason for the bomber. So for the other option here, you can also choose to get the fighter, which I believe this is the best option to go for if you're playing Germany, and you know you want to apply pressure to everything. You know, you don't really know what you're going to go for, but you want to have the most odds for everything. So I believe these two guys were in Western Europe. So for this one, you place a fighter there, or well, at the end of the turn you will place a fighter there. But these guys, you know, you can send them into Southern Europe. Because, you know, if they send a bomber over here, it'll be a 1v1, and that'll be favorable to you. But then you could send these two guys, and if this transport lives, you could send that up. You could send these guys over and potentially help out Anglo, Egypt, Sudan, and place this fighter down. So this could also attack the UK fleet if they manage to sit there. Or here too as well. Not as far as the bomber though, but you'll be able to attack whatever fleet they put right there. And yeah, so this fighter will actually protect the seas around Germany, as well as apply pressure to whatever is going on over here in Russia. And also, if you stack fighters here on Germany, they can actually hit Russia in one turn. So 1, 2, 3, and if you have a place to land, they could go ahead and land. So you could actually stack a bunch of fighters here in Germany, and they have very good defense. They could go ahead and defend Germany, and they're applying pressure to Russia. They're applying pressure to the UK Navy. You could also choose to take this guy 1, 2, 3, and say if you wanted to like stack Egypt, this guy could also be very helpful for really holding Egypt. So that's also a very good option for the fighter. But essentially with this strategy, you just want to build a fighter every single turn and just have these fighters everywhere, causing havoc, sinking navies and whatnot. And yeah, just keep stacking them on Berlin and moving them to wherever you see that needs protection, because they're very good for that. So fighters and then infantry, and just keep one-shotting all the Soviet Union's stuff. And this is probably the best strategy you could go for. It's very flexible. I mean, you could use these fighters for everything. And also, these fighters, they're also good for creating a navy. So if you wanted to build an aircraft carrier later on, you could also put this down and send those fighters onto the aircraft carrier. And if they have like even more stuff, you could build another aircraft carrier and put them on. And yeah, just having all these fighters is pretty good. I'm going to put some rapid pressure on, you know, UK, the Soviet Union. So yeah, the best option I would say in this game. But yeah, that's the Germany strategy. Germany strategy for Axis and Allies 1941. I hope you all enjoyed this video. And yeah, goodbye.